Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to episode 18 of Maker's Mic, a music makers podcast presented by LR Bags. For this episode, we're very proud to be bringing you the songs and story of Doc Oliver. Without giving too much away, I can tell you that Doc is a kind soul. He's a loving husband and father, but his story is filled with tragedy and heartbreak. Doc joined the Navy in 2010 as a medic and was twice deployed to Afghanistan. During his second deployment on August 10th, 2012, there was an insider attack at Doc's base. 3 of his team members were shot and killed. 2 of them were his closest friends. Then, in June of 2018, Doc's mother lost her battle with cancer. Doc has been playing guitar and writing songs since his teenage years, and he used this ability to channel his emotions. It was his outlet and his therapy, and it's taken him several years to build the courage to share his songs. Stay tuned after the interview to hear one of our favorites, Beautiful Thing. Let's start. Just introduce yourself, tell us your name and where you're from and that kind of stuff.
So yeah, I'm Doc Oliver, and I'm from the Central Coast of California, a small town called Orchid, or Old Town Orchid.
You were born there?
I was born in Thousand Oaks, like 2 hours south of Central Coast, but yeah, since like a newborn, I was raised in Orchid.
When did you start playing guitar and writing songs?
I've always had a guitar in my hand. I mean, since like a child, there's always one in my house. But I remember my dad buying me my first guitar when I was about 12 or 13. And, I took a few lessons, maybe 3, and then learned how to read music. And then there was no need for me to really take lessons anymore. But it wasn't until I was about 14 or 15 where I started getting into writing and telling stories and making songs.
Were there other in your family? Were there other musicians? Or?
Oh yeah. My dad's dad, my biological grandpa, he passed away. My dad was about 16, but he was in the U.S. Army band, and he played every instrument you could think of: sax, piano. He actually had his own record made. He was like a vibrato singer. So I got a bunch of cool, I got a record of him and some cool, pictures of him doing that. And I think there's maybe a few great uncles who also played guitar, but besides them, that was it.
Mm-hmm. Tell me about like your high school days and like your earlier kind of musical influences.
Yeah, so I tried, doing what my friends did, playing sports and all that. Didn't really work out, but I was like kind of out of the group, the guy who had the guitar, and we'd always kind of, hang out in backyards, and I'd be the one kind of entertaining or hanging out at the lake, in places like that. But as far as like my influences back then, I mean, it was everything. My dad was really big into like the Woodstock genre and the bands like that, and my mom was really into Fleetwood Mac, and then she also liked her old westerns, but growing up on the Central Coast, the punk scene was big, and alternative music and things like that. So I kind of grabbed a little bit of everything, and kind of created my own little sound, I guess, at a young age. Some of the songs that I'm singing now, I wrote 16 years ago, and they haven't changed a bit.
And what about now? Who?
It just depends on what kind of mood I'm in. But Ryan Bingham, I've been listening for quite a few years now. I just, I like his tone and his message. Drive-By Truckers has been a band that I've been listening to for quite a while. It all changes. I've been listening to a lot of Lucero lately. My brother-in-law kind of reintroduced that band to me. Ben Nichols, I like his tone. And yeah, so there's a lot of new artists that are coming out right now that I'm like, really digging,
What's the music scene like in Central Coast?
Central Coast, it's all over the place. A lot of indie rock, I don't even know what they call it now. There's so many different genres, but there's still some good stuff. It's just the toughest part about the Central Coast is the music venues are kind of slim. We have amphitheaters at like vineyards and um, fairgrounds and maybe a couple like solid music venues on the coast. You'd have to travel to like LA or San Francisco to really see some big names.
When did you enlist, or tell us the story about joining the military?
Yeah, so joining the military was something I kind of I hate to say, but like had in my back pocket. My dad was in the Navy Reserves. My uncle was in the Navy. They were both corpsmen or medics. All my grandparents were in the military. So it's something that like, I wanted to honor my past and, kind of like the tradition of the family and join, but also I kind of wanted to set my own path too. So my dad, he kind of said, "Hey son, you should think about going into the service for a little bit, and because it's got great benefits and all that stuff." Um, I talked to my mom about it. She's like, "You need to try college for a few years before you make a big decision like that." So I decided to go that route, and I wasted a bunch of money, trying to do college and stuff like that, working 40 hours a week at a market, and um, but eventually I ended up joining in 2010. And I went in as a corpsman, as a medic in the Navy, and I knew I wanted to be what they call an FMF or Fleet Marine Force corpsman. So it's where you're a medic with the Marine Corps because the Marines don't offer that as a job. They use the Navy's medics. So yeah, I kind of had some inspiration from family, and then just things weren't working out. With the path that I was kind of choosing on my own. And yeah, I joined in 2010 and then went through, some training courses, learning medicine. And then I ended up stationed in Hawaii with 1st Battalion, 3rd Marine Division, weapons company on a team called CAT. It's Combined Anti-Armor Team, number 2. So it's a team of infantry that they're specialized in like heavy machine guns and tow missiles and things like that. So I was the medic on our team, and from there I went on a deployment to Afghanistan. That first deployment was about 9 months. Um, I came back. We landed back in the States on Thanksgiving Day in 2011. And I was kind of hooked. I liked what I did over there. It was a different type of medicine. It's not like the medicine back here in the States. I had freedom to kind of make choices, and I'm not worried about like, like I'm just trying to do what's right with the limited resources that I had. You know what I mean? Versus like medicine over here, you have a lot of things to worry about. Like getting sued or things like that. But I was addicted to that scene. You know what I mean? Like we'd go on 3 patrols a day from anywhere from a few miles to like 10 or 15 miles on each patrol, trying to build rapport with the local nationals and helping them out. But also, we're mainly there to deny enemy freedom of movement, looking for ISIS or Taliban back then, So anyways, when I got back, I volunteered to join a special team called an embedded training team or ETT, and they had a board selection process, but I got selected to be on this 12-man team. They had 3 different teams going out, but I got on one of them, and then we went on a second tour about maybe 3 months after I just got back.
Were you married before going on your first tour, or
No, not married before my first, not married before my second, but I met my wife before my second tour. Yeah, I went home. Well, actually, I was in Camp Pendleton. No, I was at 29 Palms in Palm Springs, the Marine Corps base there. And we did some pre-op training before you go on deployment. You go there for a few weeks to kind of get in tune. And when I went home for leave before I deployed, like the first day on leave is when me and my wife crossed paths. We were actually both in a wedding together, and our friends had paired us up to walk down the aisle together. I don't think she was too happy about it at first. She didn't really like me too much, but I don't know. I guess I changed her mind. But we met, yeah, and we hung out every single day for about 16 days until I left, and then our relationship continued to grow while I was deployed until I got back. That's in one of my songs, "Couldn't Wait." That first verse is kind of about my story with my wife. So
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about
yeah,
that song.
yeah, "Couldn't Wait" is the first verse is about like me falling in love before I left for Afghanistan, and I got home and I asked her to marry me. 3 days after I was home. I was, it was I knew I wanted to marry her like when I was gone. She's just the coolest chick in the world. But also like, like I had this second chance at life because I shouldn't be here today. Really, I almost, I was very close to death. That didn't really have any inspiration of me like asking her to marry me, but it just gave me this like different look on life, like what makes me happy. I need to like take full advantage of, the good things in life. Yeah, and then the "Couldn't Wait," we ended up when I got retired from the Navy in 2013, um, we ended up having our first kid. I got a job with the US Forest Service. It's a federal job, so they kind of hired me right out the gate. And I was fighting fires, all summer, and we were up on a fire that was near the border of Oregon and California, and which is about 600 miles away from home. And she went into labor 3 weeks early, and I missed the birth by a few hours. Pretty much had to like try to steal a government vehicle to drive back home to like see the birth of my son. And then it goes into my mom passed away last year to cancer, and the song rolls into that too. But it's called "Couldn't Wait." It's kind of, I don't know, about being impatient, but just how sometimes you got to take advantage of life because shit happens. You know what I mean? Like very quickly.
I want to talk about some of the other songs that you did too, but first, I want to talk about your experience coming out here and like how that whole
Yeah, we
story. I
can do
wonder
that. Yeah.
if we should do that first or
Yeah, like
talk.
how'd you
Yeah,
end up
let's.
in our chair, like or something? I
Yeah,
don't know.
yeah. What are you doing here in Nashville? How'd that all come about? And
I don't know what one word would be to describe it, but it was really kind of random in a good way. It's funny. Jeff Bridges was playing his solo concert actually in my hometown, and my wife and I had to go because it was my mom had recently passed away, and we're still dealing with her death. She was an awesome chick, and she was just the coolest mom in the world. But she really loved Jeff Bridges, and mostly, one of his movies that he did, Crazy Heart. She just loved that movie, and we probably watched that movie 5 times together. But Ryan Bingham did a lot of songs for that soundtrack and for the movie, and he was in the movie. And I like Ryan's music. So we knew that Jeff was going to be playing some of those songs. So my wife and I had to go. And when we got there, before Jeff even started playing, I saw Lloyd Baggs, walking by with his family. And I knew who he was because I had used his products. And more recently, I got one of the pickups installed in a guitar that my mom had bought me that I played at her service. So I just walked up and shook his hand, and just said, like, "Thanks for what you do. I use your products. Like, they're amazing. Like, just thank you." That was it. And then, and he said, "Thanks." And then we went about the night. And later that night, we were kind of hanging out after a lot of the crowds had left. But I saw Lloyd walking by again, and we kind of, saw each other, and we were, saying goodbye. And we ended up having like a 30-minute conversation, just kind of BSing and talking about just, I don't know, random stuff. And my wife had just mentioned in like the last few minutes of our conversation that I've been demoing and making writing songs and things like that I had on a couple different platforms, media platforms. And Lloyd wanted to hear him, so I got his number and shared him with him. And then the next day I got a text from him saying like, "Hey, this is good stuff, and I'd like to, with your permission, I'd like to, help you out and do something with that." So that's how it happened, and then just with a few little conversations after that, I'm out here in Nashville, and we just kind of did a little EP yesterday, and with a full band of just amazing artists, and an awesome sound guy, Brew, and and now I'm doing this LR Bags presents videos, and
I
it's crazy.
I want you to tell me more about the 2 days prior to this. Like, just talk about going over to Brew's house that first day, and like,
Okay.
figuring out like how to work with a click track, and like all the stuff that was like
okay.
kind of like new to
Yeah.
you, and because I think that'd be good for like other people to hear. Like,
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, going into this, I mean, I'm just a singer-songwriter. My songs were strictly just an outlet for, my wife gave me permission to go in the garage and drink beer, and whiskey, and write songs, and just kind of have an outlet about, the heavy things that I've been going through, just with my mom passed away and then all the military stuff. So that's where all my songs came from. I'd never worked with, a sound engineer or a band, never had to, the demos that I have is just, just a live take of guitar and vocals at the same time. I'm not using a click track or anything like that. So when I got to Nashville and we rolled up to Brew's house, and just an awesome guy. He's just like blows my mind how he does things. But he had me do some scratch vocals and or scratch tracks, whatever you want to call them, and playing with the click. It's like I've never done that before, so it was obviously it was tough. It was a humbling experience. I mean, we got what we needed. It just took me a few minutes, a few takes to get it, but it was cool. That was 2 days ago, and then yesterday we're at the Brown Owl studio, and it just, I saw everything come together, and it just, when you have professionals and everyone's minds are, just working together, it actually came pretty easy. You know what I mean? Like, I was not like intimidated. I was just worried that I didn't want to slow anybody down, but it just happened so naturally. It was really cool. We had Aaron Goodrich, and he was on the drums, percussionist, and just holy cow. I mean, he was sitting next to Brew, coming up with these ideas that was like for everyone's part, It was just it was amazing to see that guy's brain work. Not only that, but he's also like, going in his car or like going outside and finding these like things like trash can lids, and he had all these different instruments for, for sound. Cause some of the songs are different, I have Siren's more of a swampy song versus like Elmer's, which is, it's kind of a more simple song. And then Mike Ely on the guitar, and that was insane just how quick, he and Kellen worked together to make, these solos and things like that. Kellen Winrick, that was by all of them, and I mean, no disrespect to any of them, but just to hear that guy play the fiddle, especially to like one of my own tracks, like a beautiful thing, that needed fiddle, it needed those type of strings, and what he did so quickly and like naturally was, I don't know, man. We were just everybody in there when he was doing his thing, putting that track down on a beautiful thing. It was just so moving, and it was like no big deal. And then also he created all these charts the night before for everybody. He just comes in, "Hey guys, here you go," for like 4 songs. And I don't know. It's just, it was such a, I don't know, I don't want to downplay it at all, but it's such a good experience working with those guys. We came in, and everyone just meshed together well, and and we got the job done. But we had a great fucking time,
Took us about 12 hours, right?
Yeah, 4 tracks, 12 hours,
Yeah, so let's see. We did Siren, and let's talk about that song.
Okay. Yeah, Siren. It's a song I wrote like 15 or 16 years ago. It's really cool. It's like it's got this like, kind of like this old like either like you're out on the ocean feel, on a ship, or like a swampy feel to it, you know what I mean? But it's just a simple song kind of about like, breakups. And I was in high school at the time, but like Greek mythology, like sirens, things like that. So that's kind of what the song's based around. That's where I was getting the inspiration for it. But yeah, but it's a fun song that's so dimensional. I can play it acoustically, and it has this one tone. Or what we did the other night was like we made it a boot stomping song, you know what I mean? Like something that people could dance to, which I've never thought of it as that kind of song. So, but I mean, that's what last night was all about. Before that, we played Helmand, and Helmand's it's a song that I wrote a few years ago, but I was over in Afghanistan for a while, you know what I mean? Well over a year, like a year and a half to however long. So every day was different over there. A lot of material that I could, write a song about, but the song Helmand was just about one day over there, when ultimately this little kid, ended up showing at our front gate, of our little FOB, or forward operating base, just where me and my team were at. And he was messed up, his whole head was cracked open. We had an HM1, or another medic, higher grade than me and myself. But working on the local nationals was something that was important to build relationships. So it's hard to like deny them any type of treatment, especially when I was a kid. I'll work on any kid, you know what I mean? And I had someone there to kind of to direct me, but yeah, it's just a song about that kid pretty much. I thought he was deserving of that day was deserving of a song, And like I said before, it's all these songs are kind of like outlets. Where we were at, it wasn't like, cities and cars, all this buildings and stuff like that. It was more like mud huts and things like that. So these kids didn't have a lot of medical attention. So I was a young guy, you know what I mean? Like
How old?
22, like having kids and like a heart for kids was something that, I mean, like, yeah, you have nieces and nephews, or, things like that, but I never knew that I had that kind of heart for like children, you know what I mean? Seeing them in that condition, it does something to you. So,
How did he, if you don't mind telling us, how did he get his injury?
we really don't exactly know, you know what I mean? But from what they were telling us was that he like fell off a tractor. I don't know. It's hard to say. I can't really say what happened, because there's no like investigation that was involved in it. But I will say that a lot of times, over there, Taliban are the bad guys. They do things to try to hurt us, right? I mean, we're on their territory, you know what I mean? It's like you got to expect that. But sometimes it doesn't always work out like that. Sometimes the civilians or the local nationals are the ones who get hurt from that. Like another example, one of the first infants I ever worked on was this little kid, and he had really the worst burns I've ever seen on his legs. And these guys brought him to the gate, this little infant with perfect circumference burns up to his thighs around both of his legs. And they said that he was crawling and knocked over some chai tea, right? And it just boiled his legs or something. But really, what everybody thought was that the kid was like dipped into hot boiling water, you know what I mean? Because like they don't understand like kids crying, babies cry, you know what I mean? Sometimes it's like, to us it's like, oh, they're either need a pacifier or change the diaper or something like that. But these guys who could be high on opium, or just messed up, they don't know what to do, or they're going to injure a kid to get him inside because they know we'll take care of them, so they can get a little view of what the inside of our base looks like, things like that. You have to think about that kind of stuff. So we always got these kids, these messed up kids showing up at our gate for us to help, with these grown men taking them in. We'd obviously have to search them before we help these kids out, but it was just, and all the photos and stuff like that, but there's just so many kids that we always had to work on. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
That's fucking terrible.
Yeah.
Tell us about A Beautiful Thing.
A Beautiful Thing.
We'll just kind of work our way backwards through the songs. Yeah. Sorry, start over because
No. I wrote A Beautiful Thing. I started writing it, and then it became something else. So, if I were to write a song about like every tragic incident that, like people go through things, like whether, someone has a miscarriage or someone has in a horrific car accident, you know what I mean? We all go through stuff, right? It's life. My experiences just, so happen to be more, deployment related and, the veteran, status, I guess. But A Beautiful Thing was a song that I had started writing because before I went on my first deployment, there was a guy, one of my good friends, his sister's husband. They lived in the same town as me, and he was in the Air Force. And when I just kind of joined the service, this guy was killed by an IED, and his wife at the time, Kristen, good friend of mine and all of the community. I went home and kind of experienced that, her heartbreak, and just the whole towns, and the whole coast. It's kind of like, it was scary, you know what I mean? 'Cause it's like, man, like you hear about it, like, but never anyone from our own town. So it's kind of this just, I didn't start writing that song right away. It came out like 4 years later, but with that, I went through my own experiences, with IEDs and with my own friends being severely injured or killed, So it's kind of like a relationship between, the story is about, like there is some, fiction obviously and dialogue and things like that with the song, but it's a song about a sailor, Marine, or soldier, whoever, leaving home, or airman, leaving home, is kissing his wife goodbye, and then when he's overseas, saying goodbye, to his doc, or to his team, and moving on. So I had a really bad experience August 10th, 2012, where 3 of my guys on my team were killed in one night, with the 4th guy, Cody Rohde, who was severely injured. He suffered 5 gunshot wounds, and he was the only one who survived. But at the time, there was 7 of us in this distinct area where you could say Taliban, but it was a insider attack on us, because that was the only way they're going to get us. This guy came in to our little area with a fully loaded AK, and just from 10 feet away started spraying us. And somehow I made it out, and 2 others with just minor injuries, and 3 of them didn't. 2 of the guys were like my best friends, probably, best man at my wedding, and of that nature. And a 3rd one, Scott Dickinson, who was one of my senior guys. He's a staff sergeant. honing in on that experience in this song "Beautiful Thing." My experience with Richie, Richard Rivera, Corporal Rivera. He died in my arms when I was trying to keep him alive. I did CPR on him for about 30 minutes, and we had a lot of help. We eventually got help. I wasn't just by myself. But yeah, so the song's kind of it's just an intermingle of what Daniel went through, and then Richie and all my guys and myself, and what probably a lot of corpsmen or docs have been through. So that's what kind of stemmed that song. So real personal stuff, you know what I mean? That's how my songs kind of all started. Was like I said, it was just an outlet. I didn't like going to group therapy. I didn't like individual therapy. It was just, I don't know. People are different. But I have this ability. I know how to play guitar, and writing something that kind of comes natural. So these songs are an easy way for me to kind of let it out. And years later, I finally, you know, my wife's like, you need to record these, something for the kids to have one day, just like you have of your grandpa's. So I did. And then I started playing some gigs, and I would cover, like the guys that I like. And I'd throw some of mine in there, and people started liking them. So yeah, it just took me a while to build the confidence to like be able to play this kind of stuff out loud. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, well,
yeah.
I mean, it's, a lot of people say their songs are very personal, but when they're about such heavy natured stuff like that, it's got to be. I don't know. Does it get easier to play the songs? Or
Yeah, I think so. Trust me. Like I've played some gigs where everyone's like, yeah, Doc Oliver, let's go. It's gonna be great. And then it's like it's a pin drop in the whole entire place, you know what I mean? Because it's like someone explained to me, it was like when you go to the movies, you go see a movie, and it's like you go see a superhero movie, and you walk out of there, you're like, oh, I'm gonna be a superhero, or like that was sick. Let's go drive some cars real fast, or I don't know. Like when I play a song and people can get that feeling after it, I can put them in the place and time that I was in and kind of recreate that through music. I don't know. I think it's a good thing. I think that's like that's what music's kind of, for me. That's what music is important to me. I like music for the stories. You know what I mean? I like it to take me to another place. There's music to dance to, and there's music to. But what I enjoy is the story and that kind of. I guess, yeah.
And the emotion.
Yeah,
because I mean, so A Beautiful Thing obviously has a very different kind of feeling to it than, say, Elmer's.
Yeah, it does. I mean, as far as the rhythm, the chord progression, and like the giddy up sound, and but if you really listen to Elmer's, Elmer's is a song. Elmer's is a bar in my hometown. It's been around forever. It's on Clark Road, but Clark Road used to be, it wasn't paved. It used to be a dirt road. You know what I mean? And like horses and stuff like that. So like, people would ride their horses to Elmer's, and I don't know. It's a bar that's been around forever. My parents, my stepdad and mom met in that bar. It's like, it's just it goes. Everyone's got a memory of good or bad, unfortunately, of Elmer's. When we had purchased our house, it was just down the street from Elmer's, and I was trying to discover my outlet at the time. Dealing with whatever, if you want to label it PTSD, or just trying to cope with the shit that I've been through. And yeah, like having some beers or drinking some whiskey, it's like you're a young kid, so it's like kind of like the thing to do. It's like your first instinct. So Elmer's is a true song about the reasons why I found myself, which I don't like. It's not like I don't like enjoy going to bars a lot. I'd always get myself in trouble when I do, but it was a song about the reasons why I found myself going to Elmer's to have a drink, and it's people like to dance and boogie to Elmer's. It's a fun song, but really it's like, it's talking about the 10th of August. It's talking about my wife, catching me, abusing pills or getting fucked up and like, and giving me a last chance. It's talking about my mom, when we found out that she's going to die, you know what I mean? And it's like things that I can't cope with. So I go get fucking drunk, or excuse me, I go have a drink, so that's what Elmer's is about, that was my little place to go to. It was,
Yeah.
So, but I'm glad that people, you know what I mean? Like, people can interpret songs however you want, song to someone can mean something completely different. It is a fun song. It's a bar, but
Yeah. But deep underneath of it, there's a lot of
yeah,
tragedy.
it took me a while. People be like, play Elmer's, 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 because it's Elmer's the bar. But like that last verse, I slow it down and it's like, it's intense. And I'm not going to lie, there's been plenty of shows that I've played where someone wants me to play a beautiful thing. And, I've got beautiful Kristen Johnson Daniel Johnson's wife, sitting there next to me, you know what I mean, cheering me on. And it's like, it's tough, you know what I mean? But that's what it's all about, you know what I mean? It took me years and years and years to build the confidence to be able to get on a stage and play this stuff out because it's my, it's my story.
Tell me about the songs you did for us today.
Yeah, today we started off with a song I wrote recently called "Welcome Home," and when Lloyd had heard my stuff, and reached out to me, he came to my house and talked to me about coming out to Nashville, and wanted to talk more about like kind of who I was and kind of like what we're discussing now. And I played him "Welcome Home." I wrote "Welcome Home" because it was. I was just having a hard time, as a guy, going through things. Everyone, like I said, everyone has their own stuff that we got to go through, just at that time I was dealing with, before I answer that, in my mind, death and traumatic experiences, they have a delayed effect. Okay. If something happens to you, it doesn't mean it's going to affect you right away. It can take years, Your body, in my mind, kind of protects itself and you're able to shelter yourself from all this shit that you go through. So it's kind of more of those later years where you start dealing with crap. So while I'm dealing with things that I've been through, my mom gets diagnosed with cancer and then she dies, 2 or 3 days after my 30th birthday. So, and then a bunch of other stuff that I won't get into, life, right? Everyone wants to come in and give you their advice, you know what I mean? Which is like, okay, that's cool. Like people maybe, they care. I don't know. But then also some people shouldn't be given advice in my eyes, you know what I mean? So "Welcome Home" was a song I wrote because I was dealing with trying to be compliant with the VA with, right out of the gate. They were so quick to prescribe me. I think I was on 6 different medications at one point. Doesn't mean I was taking them, but I mean, it was ridiculous, And then also like talking about therapy, and then having family members try to tell you like, like I think this is what you need. In my mind, personally, with the help of my wife too, who's my biggest support system of all, it's like I take control of my life. You know what I mean? We'll figure it out as a family. But some people need help. You know what I mean? But for me, I kind of wanted to do it. I wanted to figure it out for myself. So that's kind of what "Welcome Home's" about. Is about not hypocrisy, but someone telling you like, "Hey, thank you for doing this," but then, or like, "Hey, I think you need this," but then really, they shouldn't be given advice because they're not a professional in that. I don't know. Yeah. So yeah. So I mean, and that last token, that last little outro, I guess, about the the chaplain. It's always a thing when you come back from the service, you always go see a chaplain. Like they're always there, you know what I mean? But they say like, "Thanks for what you did for your country" and all this stuff like that. But it's like, like, is that what it's like? Like what we did, is that in the Bible? Like, I don't know. It's like, there's so many questions to their advice. So that's where it came from. The second song, quickly, I guess the second song we did was Couldn't Wait. I think we kind of talked about that already. But yeah, I mean, couldn't wait. Like, you can't wait. That's being impatient. It's kind of a song about being impatient. You know what I mean? Like, I was impatient to marry my wife. My son was impatient to fucking come to the world. And then, God would, or whoever was impatient, and took my mom away, something like that. That's where it came from. The third song, I think we revisited Helmand.
We did Helmand.
Yeah, that we did in the studio, but it was kind of like, my Helmand. And we definitely got it rocking the other night in the studio, which was awesome. And then the last song was something that I just wrote weeks ago called Too Far Gone, which is really opening up my heart and putting it on a platter for people to see, because behind closed doors, I don't know, it's different. I go in my garage, I tinker, I build things with wood, I write songs, I do, I just kind of have my moment. But sometimes, it catches up with you. You know what I mean? That delaying effect of the shit that you've been through, you can't, I mean, maybe you can, I don't know, but it's caught up with me a few times where it's unexplainable. I used to think that, here's the thing, is like, with that song, I think we're in 2019, I think in the past 5 years, me personally, like, guys that I personally knew and like deployed with, like, ate, slept, fought with, drank with, deployed with, like my guys that I've been with, I think 6 of them have committed suicide in just, I think now 5 years. That's just people that I knew, right? So I never understood it. I'm like, why do you do that to yourself? Like, some of the guys had beautiful wives and kids, and like had a lot to live for, and they chose to do that to, to their families, to themselves. And I never understood it. I was like, it's messed up. But I always thought that, like, maybe they just didn't have the support system that I had. I got an awesome wife, and like, she's understanding. She helps me like go through things, you know. But I never understood it. But once, like, it wasn't just one guy, Kyle Klunder, then, or Tony Wynn or Vincent Schaefer, some of the most badass guys. I got in a fight with Vincent Schaefer. He was the baddest Marine I've ever met in my life. I got in a fist fight with him on the 50-yard line on Kaneohe Bay, the Marine Corps base, on their football field. I got in a fight with him, and then we were best friends after that. And he took his life. I don't know why, but I just tried to wrap my head around it, But then it kind of, not suicidal thoughts or anything, but the real, like, flashback things have happened to me. Really weird things that you can't explain, But August 10th, that night, I wasn't in the best shape. I was covered in, in a bunch of shit, and trying to take care of 3 of my friends, or 4 of my friends actually. And I've had those moments where things have caught up with me, and it took me a long time to kind of hone in on it, but that's where the song kind of came from, And then in the end, it's like, thankfully my wife, she gets it, you know what I mean? But she's kind of taking care of me, but yeah, it's intense.
I love that line in there. Like, I only heard that song for the first time today.
Yeah.
So I don't remember it exactly, but I know there was a line in there about her, like, making you realize where you are now, because you're so deep in this, like.
Yeah, it's happened a few times. I mean, which is, like I said, it's been years. So now I'm comfortable to say this.
Yeah.
It's really weird for me, back years ago, I wasn't. Veterans Day, I don't get free food on Veterans Day. I stay in my house. I'm not, this whole thing that I did, for a few years, like the military stuff, it doesn't define who I am. You know what I mean? It's just something I could tell my kids one day. It was a job. It was a privilege, all that stuff. But really, I was a young guy, went in the military, proud of what I did, but like, move on. I'm ready to move on and do other things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't, the veteran card is not something that I, ever really talk about or pull or whatever. But these songs, like I said, were just outlets for the things that I've been through.
I think that's it, dude.
Cool.
Yeah. That was awesome.
Cool. Right on, man. Well, I'm glad I got
Let's
to
high five.
Yeah, I'm glad I got to share my stories. I mean, you know, the ones that are involved in the songs.
Yeah.
His lover, his darling wife. Well, she put up quite a fight. Well, as he tried to slip out in the middle of the night, the bags were packed waiting on the porch, and the cab was on its way. He said, baby, I gotta go. She cried, no, honey, stay. But I won't be gone too long, 'cause I can't live without you. So darling, please be strong. I'll be home soon. Without a war in a foreign land, my friend, he put up quite a fight. When the road burst into the sky and death came to claim his life, I did everything possible that I could. I even prayed, God, don't let him die. He slowly grabbed onto my hand and looked me peacefully in the eye. Oh, brother, hold on. We're gonna get you out of here. Corporal, please be strong. You'll be here soon. He whispered in my ear, well, hey doc, take a look around you. The angels are already here, and I'm leaving soon. If you can only see what I'm seeing and hear God's angels singing their songs to me, well, it's a beautiful thing.
That wraps it up for this episode of Maker's Mic. What Doc didn't tell you in that interview is that he's currently working security detail for a local power plant. This job requires him to carry a firearm. I can't imagine the emotional impact every time he straps it on. So if you take anything away from this, please share his music and his story with your friends and family. And be sure to check out the short documentary we filmed while Doc was in Nashville, along with his LR Bags acoustic session. You can find it on the LR Bags YouTube channel. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next time on Maker's Mic.